The first message I saw wasn't even meant for me. My wife had left her phone charging on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs getting ready for a family barbecue. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. The screen lit up when a text arrived, and my eyes drifted toward it without thinking. I still can't stop thinking about last night. That was all I saw before the notification disappeared. The sender's name made my stomach drop. My brother. For a few seconds I honestly thought there had to be some innocent explanation. Maybe they were talking about the barbecue planning. Maybe they had been discussing something personal. Maybe I was misunderstanding. But even as I stood there staring at the dark screen, a strange feeling settled into my chest. The kind of feeling that tells you your life is about to split into two parts. Before and after. Until that moment, I thought I had a good life. I had been married for 11 years. We had 2 kids, a comfortable house, and what I believed was a stable relationship. My brother was my best friend. And I had absolutely no idea that everything I trusted was already falling apart. Looking back now, I hate how many warning signs I ignored. My wife and my brother got along immediately after I introduced them. At first, it felt natural. He was funny, outgoing, and charismatic. She laughed at his jokes more than anyone else did. I actually liked seeing them become friends. When our father died 6 years ago, my brother spent a lot of time at our house. We all leaned on each other. There were family dinners every week. Birthday parties. Holiday trips. Movie nights. The 3 of us became inseparable. My wife would text him memes. He would send her funny videos. If I walked into a room and they were laughing together, I felt lucky that everyone got along. Sometimes friends joked that they seemed closer than siblings-in-law usually were. I laughed it off. I trusted them both completely. That trust became a blindfold. Even when my wife started mentioning him constantly in conversations, I ignored it. Even when she knew details about his daily life that I didn't know myself, I ignored it. I told myself close families were supposed to be like that. I never imagined I was watching something dangerous grow right in front of me. The first real crack appeared about 8 months before everything exploded. My wife started guarding her phone. It happened gradually. She began taking it everywhere. Bathroom. Laundry room. Backyard. Bed. She changed her passcode after years of leaving it unlocked. When I asked why, she laughed and said she had become paranoid about identity theft. That answer felt strange. But not strange enough. Then there were the late-night messages. Her phone would buzz after midnight. Sometimes she smiled while reading them. Sometimes she turned the screen away from me. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I convinced myself that suspicion was toxic. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. One night I casually asked who she was texting. She answered immediately. My friend Sarah. No hesitation. No nervousness. Nothing. And because I trusted her, I accepted it. Months later I would discover that Sarah had no idea what I was talking about. My wife hadn't been texting her at all. She had been texting my brother. Every day. For nearly 2 years. The barbecue day haunted me long before I learned the full truth. After seeing that message, I couldn't stop watching them. Every glance felt suspicious. Every smile seemed loaded with meaning. I started noticing things that had probably been happening for years. The private jokes. The lingering eye contact. The way conversations stopped when I entered a room. At one point my brother was standing near the grill. My wife walked past him. Neither touched the other. Yet something passed between them. A look. A silent understanding. It lasted less than a second. But it felt intimate. I remember standing there holding a paper plate, while my heart pounded. For the first time, I wondered if I was the only person who didn't know something. That thought terrified me. Because once it entered my mind, it wouldn't leave. I spent the next week replaying every interaction I had ever witnessed between them. And suddenly, memories I once considered harmless began looking completely different. Like pieces of a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. I wish I could say I handled things maturely. I didn't. A few days later, curiosity turned into obsession. While my wife was showering, I opened her phone. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The messages were still there. Thousands of them. Years' worth. At first I hoped they would be innocent. They weren't. I scrolled through conversations filled with flirtation. Heart emojis. Inside jokes. Secret meetings. Then I found the messages that destroyed me. I wish we didn't have to hide. I love you. I hate hurting him. Me too. Reading those words felt physically painful. Like something tearing inside my chest. I kept scrolling despite knowing I should stop. There were references to hotel rooms. References to nights when I thought my brother was working late. References to weekends when my wife claimed she was visiting friends. My vision blurred. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed staring at the screen. I couldn't breathe properly. The betrayal was no longer a fear. It was real. And it was far worse than I had imagined. The revelation itself came less than an hour later. I confronted her immediately. I didn't plan it. I didn't think. I simply walked into the living room holding her phone. She saw my face and froze. That reaction told me everything. "What is this?" I asked. My voice barely sounded human. She looked at the screen. Then at me. Then back at the screen. For several seconds she said nothing. The silence was unbearable. Finally she whispered, "I can explain." I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because my brain couldn't process reality. "Explain what?" I shouted. "The affair? The lies? The fact you've been sleeping with my brother?" She started crying immediately. Real tears. Heavy, shaking sobs. But seeing her cry didn't comfort me. It made me angrier. Because she wasn't crying when she was lying to me. She wasn't crying when she was betraying me. She only cried after she got caught. And that realization cut deeper than anything else. What followed was 3 hours of absolute chaos. My wife admitted the affair. At first she claimed it had lasted only a few months. Then I showed her messages proving otherwise. Suddenly it became 1 year. Then 2 years. Then almost 3. Every answer changed. Every explanation shifted. The truth moved like sand. I couldn't trust a single word. Eventually she admitted they had fallen in love. That sentence nearly broke me. Not the sex. Not even the lies. The love. Because affairs can be explained away as mistakes. Falling in love takes time. Choices. Commitment. She hadn't accidentally betrayed me. She had built an entirely separate relationship while coming home every night pretending to be my wife. I remember asking her one question. "Did everyone know?" She immediately said no. But her hesitation was enough. Because suddenly I wasn't just questioning my marriage. I was questioning every member of my family. Every gathering. Every holiday. Every smiling face. I wondered who had been protecting their secret while I lived in ignorance. Calling my brother was one of the worst moments of my life. He answered casually. Like it was a normal day. I told him to come over. Immediately. Something in my voice must have alarmed him because he arrived within 20 minutes. The second he walked through the door, he saw my wife's red eyes. He saw me standing there. And he knew. Nobody had to say anything. The room felt frozen. Finally I asked him one question. "How long?" He stared at the floor. 3 years. 3 years. I still hear those words. 3 years of family dinners. 3 years of holidays. 3 years of shaking my hand and looking me in the eye. I exploded. I screamed things I barely remember. He tried apologizing. My wife tried calming me down. That somehow made everything worse. Because they were standing together. Facing me together. Like a team. Like I was the outsider. The realization hit harder than any confession. At some point, they had become each other's priority. And I had become the obstacle standing between them. The next few weeks were a blur of anger and humiliation. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't concentrate at work. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders. Family photographs. Vacation souvenirs. Wedding pictures. All of them suddenly felt fake. People noticed something was wrong. Friends called. Relatives asked questions. I lied repeatedly because I wasn't ready to tell anyone. The shame surprised me. I knew logically that I wasn't responsible. Yet I still felt embarrassed. Like everyone would see me as the fool who never noticed. Meanwhile, my wife kept trying to talk. She wanted counseling. She wanted understanding. She wanted time. What she really wanted was forgiveness. And I didn't have any to give. Not then. Maybe not ever. Every time I looked at her, I imagined those messages. Every time I heard my brother's name, my stomach twisted. I wasn't just grieving a marriage. I was grieving the version of reality I had believed in for over a decade. And that loss felt impossible to measure. The family secret emerged a month later. As if the affair wasn't enough. During a heated argument, my mother accidentally revealed something she had hidden for decades. My brother and I had different fathers. I already knew that. What I didn't know was that my mother had spent years treating him differently because of guilt surrounding her own infidelity. Suddenly another betrayal entered the story. Another layer of deception. Another reason my family had never functioned normally. My brother later admitted he had always felt like the outsider. The unwanted child. The mistake. He claimed those feelings contributed to everything that happened. Part of me understood. Another part wanted to scream. Because no childhood wound justified what he had done. Still, learning that secret changed how I viewed our entire family history. It felt like dishonesty ran through generations. Hidden relationships. Buried truths. People pretending everything was fine. I began questioning whether honesty had ever existed in my family at all. Or whether I had simply been the last person still believing in it. The hardest conversations involved my children. They were too young to understand everything. Yet old enough to notice that their world was changing. They noticed separate bedrooms. They noticed arguments. They noticed their uncle disappearing from family events. One evening my daughter asked whether mommy and daddy still loved each other. I nearly broke down. There is no good answer to a question like that. Not when you're drowning in betrayal. Not when you're trying to protect children from adult cruelty. We told them we were having problems. We told them none of it was their fault. The standard answers. The safe answers. But children sense pain. They feel tension. They notice tears. Even when nobody explains anything. Watching them suffer created a different kind of heartbreak. One that felt bigger than my own. Because I could survive betrayal. What hurt most was knowing my children's sense of security had become collateral damage in a disaster they never asked for. For months I lived between hatred and love. That was the most confusing part. I still loved my wife. I hated admitting that. After everything she had done, some part of me still remembered who she used to be. Or who I thought she was. I missed ordinary things. Morning coffee. Movie nights. Inside jokes. The comfortable routines of marriage. At the same time, I felt overwhelming resentment. How could I miss someone who had hurt me this badly? How could I still care? Those emotions fought each other constantly. Some days I wanted reconciliation. Other days I wanted to erase her from my life completely. The same conflict existed with my brother. I hated him. Yet he was still the person I grew up with. The person who taught me to ride a bike. The person who stood beside me at my wedding. Losing both relationships simultaneously felt like losing entire chapters of my identity. I no longer knew who I was without them. And that uncertainty terrified me. Eventually the marriage ended. Not dramatically. Not with screaming. Not with revenge. Just exhaustion. Too much damage. Too many lies. Too many memories poisoned beyond repair. We separated first. Then filed for divorce. The paperwork felt strangely cold compared to the emotional devastation behind it. Years together reduced to signatures. Dates. Legal language. My wife eventually admitted she wasn't sure whether she loved my brother anymore. That confession almost made me laugh. She had destroyed everything for a relationship she couldn't even define. Meanwhile, my brother moved away. A different city. A different life. The distance didn't heal anything. It simply created silence. People often imagine closure as a dramatic moment. A final conversation. A satisfying explanation. Real life isn't like that. Most endings arrive quietly. You wake up one day and realize the damage is permanent. Then you continue living anyway. Because there isn't another option. It's been several years now. On the surface, life looks normal again. I work. I spend time with my kids. I pay bills. I attend school events. I smile when appropriate. Most people assume I've moved on. The truth is more complicated. Betrayal changes how you see the world. I question motives more often. I trust more slowly. I notice details I once ignored. Sometimes I hate that. Sometimes I miss the version of myself who believed loyalty was simple. Relationships after divorce have been difficult. Not because I don't want love. Because part of me fears becoming vulnerable again. Trust feels different when you've watched the two people closest to you destroy it together. Some scars heal. Others simply become familiar. This one became familiar. Manageable. But never entirely gone. Certain songs. Certain places. Certain memories. They can still pull me backward without warning. Back to the moment everything shattered. The strangest thing about all of this is that I still don't know exactly when I lost them. Was it the first flirtatious message? The first lie? The first secret meeting? Or had the relationship already died long before I discovered the truth? I think about that more than I should. Not because I want answers anymore. Because unanswered questions leave permanent echoes. People ask whether I forgive them. Honestly, I don't know. Some days I think I have. Other days I remember specific messages and feel the anger return instantly. What I do know is this. Trust is fragile. Much more fragile than I ever realized. I spent years believing that loyalty from family was guaranteed. That marriage created safety. That blood meant something. Maybe those beliefs were naive. Maybe they were necessary. Either way, they're gone now. And although I've rebuilt a life from the wreckage, part of me still stands in that kitchen, staring at a glowing phone screen. Watching a single message arrive. Completely unaware that everything I loved was already slipping away.